Hey guys, Luxker here. So, I'm guessing none of you who are watching this video has been living under a rock, but I will just say it again. Xenoblade Genesis is real and will be scheduled to come out next year. Since then, people have seen a lot of inspirations this game has with many pieces of media Tetsuya Takahashi was inspired by, from Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke with the inspiration of having 6 suns circle around the sky, to Carl Jung and the collective unconscious regarding the psychology of anima. But there's one thing many Xenoblade fans have obviously pointed out, and that is the nature of the Anima Crystones given to Veseli. Xenoblade fans literally saw the Anima Crystone given to Eleanor as looking like Malos given the purple color of the Crystone, which turns into a shape based on a possible class system characters have. The shape of the sword looks like Pneuma's sword, doesn't it? And countless people have pointed this out as a way that the series is more connected than ever. But what if I tell you that this is more than just a simple cameo? That Takahashi under our noses will make Xenoblade Genesis, a game that is shown to be a breathful take for the series, and not being connected to the original trilogy at all. It's very clearly connected to the larger Xeno series as a whole, but part of the massive idea Takahashi has been building up for decades. That's right, y'all! Objects are important to this game, and I will prove it to you! But before we move on to the video, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep in touch with my newest videos like this one. I will be cranking out a new Xenoblade Genesis video every month until it releases, so please stay notified for my Xenoblade Genesis Monthly Updates. I also want to reach up to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so if you like the Xeno series and you want to stay up to date, please subscribe to my channel. Anyways, without further ado, let's objection! So, I know this video is talking about Xenoblade Genesis, but let's roll back to April 1st, 2024, when the Xenoblade 3 Aionios Moments has finally been released. It has shown a lot of cool concept art of characters, settings, and weapons for characters in the game. I already covered all these things in a video I released a few years ago, but what I actually did not cover was a Q&A session from Tetsuya Takahashi shown at the very end of the book. Now, why I didn't cover this is a long story. Basically, I was waiting for a full translation of the entire art book before getting into the interview itself. However, this didn't happen due to Nintendo's copyright infringement issues going on. That if someone were to fully translate the material into English or another language and post it online, Nintendo will 100% take the material down. So that's kind of why I didn't cover this interview for so long. But now, I am finally going to dig into this Q&A session here in this video, which is the only thing from the art book that got translated. I want to thank Lugal Banda for making this English translation possible. Also, spoilers for the entire Xenoblade trilogy, by the way. So, in this Q&A, Takahashi went over so many questions, such as if Lance was a Machina, which he said yes, among many things talking about A's gender, the radio, how colonies were originally going to be in a Furanis, how the Goldos and the Fog King are one and the same as they represent the two worlds coming together, although they were mainly supposed to represent the way Virus from Xenogears function, how the consoles are supposed to represent their own sense of justice, when Noah throws Lucky 7 out into the ocean at the end of the game, symbolically representing Aionios and Origin splitting up due to the sword having the source code of Origin in it. More on that later. Alpha being the original controller of Origin before he got defeated, and Zed taking control of Origin after his defeat. That Gondor and Monica being in the ending shows that they will continue to live in the new world after Aionios ceases to exist, and that Noah wants to continue that. How Noah represents the Nietzschean Ubermensch, which I am sure you already know already. Riku's purpose within Aionios and how he conveniently lies to not reveal too much about it, which is base Riku. How Nappan have a lifespan outside of Aionios so they won't deal with the 10-year lifespan. How Shulk and Rex continue living is supposed to represent a ranking system which is based off the age of the characters, the Ontos Core writes. and how their children have to stay within the Endless Now, due to them not reaching a specific age. How golden motes represent ascension and no longer being a part of the world they are a part of. How the Hooded Kid is actually N inside Noah's psyche. Xenogears connections, anyone? But yeah, that is most of the stuff that is worth translating for the Q&A, except a few things that I basically made this video about. One of the main points Takahashi talks about is where all the Trinity processor cores are located. When commenting on N's sword, quote, "What's inside the sword of the N that N holds? That would be Logos. I mean, it's Malos, but Malos, for the time being, is dead. Or has disappeared. As to why Malos is there, I'm sorry about this, but I can't answer that at this point. But what N is holding there, that is Malos himself." End quote. The reason why Malos is inside N's sword itself is because Logos is in there. Similar to how Pneuma's core is in Matthew's gauntlets. Quote, "Next, Matthew's gauntlets. The fists of the end. Pneuma is inside there, and therefore both Pyra and Mithra. You can think of it as both of their wills being present within the gauntlet." End quote. So wait, if you say the wills of Pyra and Mithra are inside the fists of the end, but also Malos' presence also being in N's sword is interesting to me. It means Malos is here, despite Takahashi saying that the answer to him will come at a later point. We will come back to the first quote later, but let's go on to what representation Lucky 7 has. Quote, "And Lucky 7, which Noah came to wield, this is actually, this is not mentioned within the story, but Fiora is inside of it." End quote. In fact, the people in the room were actually really shocked to hear this information. Why would Fiora of all people be the main sword in the entire game? Takahashi clarifies, quote, "While some people like Shulk and Rex appear in this world in the flesh, some people appear as an object, and that is an expression or a reflection of their traits, or thoughts. Things like, how can I change this world? I think this is the best way to do so. Think of it as something like that." End quote. So that explains it. In Aionios, the people who actually don't appear as a person show their eminence as objects, just as a way of saying that they are able to make a difference to Aionios, without being physically present. In fact, Takahashi makes this point even clearer when talking about what the origin shards represent. Quote, "You had to collect origin shards at the end of the main story, right? There's nothing concretely decided in terms of who is what shard, but you never know, maybe those shards could be Rhine. In broad strokes, if you think about it in this way, it shouldn't be wrong." End quote. Okay, so this is very interesting then. The main characters of both Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 can also be represented as objects then in the form of origin shards. You know, those shards that are dropped by unique monsters and scattered across the world to upgrade your weapons? Yep, each one of those shards represents either a main character, side character, NPC, or Nopon that you can come across in the main game. It's not just origin shards either. The legendary biter accessory is pretty much assumed to be Ricky, and Nimue's watch that Taion keeps with him can also be a representation of Nimue herself. In fact, the scene talking about Nimue to watch is very interesting to me. Take a listen.
But that's changed. If Nimue's life is represented by her dreams, then in remembering those, I carry her life with me. Perhaps now, I can give a purpose to my life. She'd live on if I were to pass her dreams on to others, right? If I had just, say, 10 more years, no, even 5, with just a bit of borrowed time, how many more memories could I fit inside this little pocket watch?
Still, it was a nice chat. Dreams in objects, huh?
Dreams and memories living inside just normal everyday objects that can last longer than a lifetime, huh? That's the main point about why I made this video. Takahashi wants us to care about this subject of a character's dreams and memories being inside objects. that brings me back to the Anima Crystones, and why pretty much everyone was freaking out. Not only about colors and shapes, but about their purpose as well. In fact, just from watching the trailer again from the professor guy talking about all we know about Anima's Crystones so far, is, quote,
"It not only amplifies a vesselized power, but also records its bearer's thoughts and actions,"
end quote. I already mentioned in my analysis that this is very similar to how Blades and Xenoblade 2 work in battles, that in order for their power to grow, they must put their trust in their driver more, which includes the thoughts and actions a driver persists. And where do blades come from? Just everyday, regular, common variety crystal objects? Okay, with the Riku speak aside, something interesting I noticed in the Alrest Records art book shows that the core crystals were intended to go into a blade's weapons, which is where they get their power from. And because of this, I thought a lot more about the mystique Anima Crystones have on this world, after people put in those Malos and Pnuema similarities there. And this is where I get into my Luxker theory crafting mode. So, here's the thing. The things we know about Anima Crystones are that they record the thoughts and actions of the user holding the Crystones. But what if they are more than just this? What if we go what Tyon said about just a simple pocket watch, and they will hold the user's memories and dreams as well? I mean, it is not out of the ordinary for Anima Crystones to be that way. Bridget keeps a journal of all the memories she had because when a blade goes back into a core crystal, all those memories are wiped out. As for dreams, I mean, where do I begin specifically? In fact, dreams are really something the Xeno series really only mentions in passing as a goal for what the characters want for the future. I hope, I dream, for a better place and all that. Maybe the goal of a future Xeno series game, or maybe Genesis, is that the Anima Crystones fulfilling those dreams for the main characters in some way. Maybe to bring Eleanor's brother back, or for the male dual-antagonist's dream of there be peace within the people of Anshar. Going back to Xenoblade 3 again, and how Origin Shards, the Legendary Biter, Nimue's Watch, and Lucky 7, all having people in it, is all based off of the philosophy of Animism, which comes from the Latin word anima, by the way. It pertains that all objects, landforms, non-human organisms, all have a distinct soul or personhood to them. As a distinctly anti-Jungian philosophy, people commonly project animism by having things such as family heirlooms, cremation urns, or your grandmother's antique sachet, for example. In Japan specifically, though, which the Malos soft developers grew up in, there is a rather famous creature in Japanese folklore called a Tsukumogami. Tools of human souls living in objects that are aged 99 years or more. These are the things that project animism into people. Lucky 7 having Fiora's soul is, in a way, showing off that her sacrifice, and being able to cherish others like Shulker Maneth, were able to achieve the goal of destroying the oppressive system the main characters face head-on. Origin Shards being characters like Ryan or Zeke show that their powers are used faithfully by upgrading the character's weapons to be more powerful. Even the Legendary Biter, which has the effect of generating aggro every second, represents Ricky's ravenous energy to attract enemies without even attacking. That's what Animism projects here, and I think Takahashi wants us to take Anima Crystones to a whole new level of power than what Xenoblade 3 represents. What I think Anima Crystones' true purpose is that they not only so much amplify a vesselized power, but they use the power of people who die in Anshar as Anima Crystones to relay the memories and dreams onto the user as well, to get a good outlook of what this world would look like, and what this vengeance of a fallen god really is. There's so much potential that the Anima Crystones bring to the world of Xenoblade Genesis, and this is one of those things I'm truly excited about. And there is the instance of Malos' color, and Pnuema's sword shape being on Eleanor's Anima Crystone. Now, I know I'm going out of a limb here, but I honestly don't think Malos or Pnuema has any presence in this Anima Crystone. However, I do think because of the nature of the Xenoblade games about how there are multiple conduits and multiple processors that can compute with the conduits of each world, I do think Logos and Pnuema will have a presence in some form again in the series. I do not know if it will be Genesis again, but Takahashi did tell us in the Q&A to keep Malos in mind. We do not know why he even says this, to be perfectly honest. Does that mean that the answer to this question of why Malos being an end sword will be answered in Xenoblade Genesis? Does purple really just mean that Malos exists in the Xenoblade series, just as a certain purple character from Xenogears has an everlasting presence in the world? It could be a possibility. After all, Logos does line up to the God the Son in the Holy Trinity, aka Jesus. So when Logos dies, there will be a time where he will come again. Like, will the world of Anshar be destroyed in an Armageddon-like scenario, and Malos will come back again on a winged horse to save Eleanor and the gang from their sins? I don't know. I guess it will happen when Prince comes in and sings Purple Rain. I do believe, though, that Malos will take form in some kind of object. Whether it's a legendary Anima Crystone, or maybe one of those giant crystal or rock towers coming from the ground that we still don't know much about. Also, the same thing is going on with Pnuema as well. So, what did we learn here about objects being important? What is the purpose of me talking about this for over 12 minutes now? It means that objects being important is not mutually exclusive to Xenoblade 3. I believe that this metaphor will be used once again in Xenoblade Genesis, and that is what Takahashi means about Malos returning. Or that Malos will just be a rare blade that you get in Xenoblade 2 Switch 2 edition? I don't even care. What do you all think? Does my rambling about freaking crystal stone symbolism have any importance? Or am I just a weirdo looking too much into very insignificant details Takahashi only puts in interviews not many people have translated? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. In any case, my next monthly update video on Xenoblade Genesis is about the significance of the Six Suns and why Takahashi was inspired by Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke to make this a reality. Anyways, until next time, see you on the other side!